So this is a program which we started with Intel India called Digital India Dialogue Series, which is the 100 event series. And we are trying to create awareness on highlighting the potential uses of AI in various sectors. And today it is education. I just want to tell that there was a forecast that in US education sector, and it says that artificial intelligence market in education sector is going to grow at a rate of 48% during the period of 2018 to 2022. So that is a huge jump in this particular sector itself. AI definitely helps in all the sectors, and education, definitely it is helping in many, many ways. Whether it is learning where we can create new behavior models or work on our new experiences. So definitely it can help in learning. It can help in self-corrections where we can refine various solutions and algorithms to have a more accurate results and outcomes. It can definitely help in preparing the better reasoning and better algorithms to solve the specific problems. So definitely it is going to help the education sector in a big manner, whether it is to create a personalized type of sports system for students, or it is to help the teachers where their administrative functions can be done by AI so that they can devote more time for teaching the students, whether it is creating a good content, animated content, updating the content, creating more visualization. So almost everywhere AI is going to make a big sports system, going to create a big sports system. And thinking that only we started this particular program, and today event is in that direction only. We have, as Saloni was talking, we have a big lineup of the speaker today, and I'm very, very thankful to Manoj Ahuja sir, who is chairman of CBSE, for giving a big push to education sector after his joining as chairman of CBSE, whether working and driving the digital education platform or using new technology for betterment of education sector. He has been making the right interventions everywhere. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for joining today, sir. And I am also very thankful to my boss, Sri Abhishek Singh ji, who is CEO of NEGD, CEO of MyGov, and MD of Digital India Corporation, the organization which is driving the implementation of Digital India in the country, for his constant drive to implement these type of program, whether to drive MyGov, which is a citizen engagement platform, to Arogya Setu, to Poshan Abhiyan, to COVID implementation. Everywhere he is guiding the teams to make the right interventions there. And he has been giving a special push for capacity building programs. And we started under his leadership, we started many other programs like cybersecurity, cloud skills to implement the software on cloud, GIS, and everywhere we have started a number of other programs so that people can use the right technologies in a better manner. Special thanks to Intel India team, Shweta Khurana ji and her team, for collaborating and supporting this 100 series Digital India Dialogue program on AI and emerging technologies. And thanks to all the participants for joining in today. And we hope and believe that this session will be fruitful learning experience for all of you. With this, I hand it over back to Saloni. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for setting the tone. And without any further wait, we would now like to invite Mr. Abhishek Singh, CEO, MyGov and NEGD, to please share his views. Sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Saloni ji, and thank you, Vinay, for the opening remarks. It's indeed an honor and a privilege to host the third episode, third session on the Digital India Dialogue, and it's indeed heartening to see Chairperson CBSE Manoj Ahuja sir joining us today, because as we all know, the role of AI in education and the role education can play for AI are mutually beneficial, and we will be looking forward to the sessions today by the experts from Intel and other stakeholders in getting to know about how we can leverage artificial intelligence for education, and in what ways we can ensure building of capacities, ensuring skill enhancement, using and ensuring that we have a more skilled workforce in the field of AI. As we all know, as when I was mentioning, AI is transforming almost every sector of economy, every sector of work that we do in, whether it's agriculture, whether it's healthcare, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's language missions, whether it's conversational AI, whether it's CRM. In every sector, we see AI playing a big role. It's supposed to contribute more than $1 trillion to Indian economy by 2035. Globally, every company is investing in AI. Every government is investing in AI. India has published its national strategy on AI in 2018, and now we are in the process of the implementation of the national program on AI, which will focus on building infrastructure, ensuring compute facilities, ensuring data sets that are available for AI related projects, building partnerships with industry and academia for taking up projects in various sectors in artificial intelligence, and ensuring that we take along all the stakeholders to build an AI ready nation, and to ensure that AI related solutions are deployed in healthcare, in agriculture, in education, and in any way which we can. We already have several AI solutions. In fact, yesterday only we were looking at a presentation being made by Ministry of Health on how AI can be used for early diagnosis of tuberculosis. We read about the X-ray Setu project, which has been taken up in a few weeks back, in which X-ray images are being used on integrated with the WhatsApp chatbot to detect COVID-19, and without requiring the high-cost RT-PCR, high-cost CT scans that many people have been recommended for. So the idea behind doing these Digital India dialogues around AI and emerging technologies has been to demystify AI for all the stakeholders, to the potential that AI has, and to ensure that when we talk of AI, we are not talking of something which is in the future. It's something which is real, something which is happening, and we get practitioners from within the government, from academia, as well as industry, to share some of the examples, some of the use cases in how AI is being used for deploying solutions. And the challenge today is, how do we scale this up? Yesterday also we had a good big workshop on developing the ecosystem for national program on AI, and therein the data governance models was discussed in great detail, and we need to work on that with work on those lines with all the stakeholders to ensure that the researchers and those who are building solutions based on AI, they have access to the right data and they have access to using it in the right framework. And together with that, we'll be able to create a framework which will be responsible and which will be ethical, and which will ensure that more positive and constructive use cases of AI is built up. When we talk of AI in education, we find that in all the AI rankings, in the Stanford AI Index, AI Readiness Index, in the rankings, the study done by Boston Consulting Group, India has been ranked very high when it comes to having the number of people skilled in AI technologies who are available here. Given the robust engineering colleges ecosystem that we have, given the expertise that exists in Indian startups and companies, we are very high when it comes to, we are amongst one of the highest AI ready startups that have been incubated in India. The AI trained skill force is also very high. But given the potential AI has, we have MeitY and along with Ministry of Education and Industry, has been focusing on building skills in the field of AI right from school level. So in fact, last year, I believe CBSE had notified the syllabus and curriculum for artificial intelligence, which is a subject in class 10th and 12th now. Students can take in. We have schools who have got trained teachers in AI, and we have these students who are opting for artificial intelligence as a subject right from the school level. Once that happens, we will be able to work on building capacities right from the school level. And these are the students who know AI and who know data science, who know machine learning. They will be able to ultimately build solutions which can benefit all of us in the days to come. So this Digital India Dialogue, this episode will be focusing on that. We'll be focusing on highlighting the potential that exists, and what all we can do. We have a very eminent set of speakers today. Manoj Ahuja sir will be speaking just after that, and he will be giving an exposure on what CBSE is doing and Ministry of Education is doing for pushing AI into that. We will there will also be, we have in fact partnered with CBSE even to use AI related solutions in the DigiLocker project of MIT, in which people can download their mark sheets using image processing technologies. In fact, and then another program that we have implemented along with Ministry of Education and Mrs. Intel, the Responsible AI for Youth program, in which we imparted AI related training to more than 52,000 school kids, government school kids. And of that, now almost 11,000 of them completed that training, and almost 100 of them are going ahead to build the products and build their solutions. In fact, a few weeks back, I had interaction with these school kids, and I was impressed by the level of awareness and the level of expertise these kids have got with just one course on AI. And I'm sure once we push forward this agenda, once we conduct more capacity building sessions for school children and all, we will be able to find the real champions who can help build very robust solutions in days to come. We'll have Anshul Sonak, who will be making a presentation on global AI and digital readiness, who is from Intel. And then we will have the NDR project, which is path-breaking projects, which have been notified by Ministry of Education, which will build in trying to integrate all the education-related applications onto an enterprise architecture framework. The NDR document was released a few weeks back, and Reshma would be giving some exposure with what is it there in that document and how it seeks to build up a ecosystem which will bring together not only AI and emerging technologies, but the entire digital initiatives of Ministry of Education. Then Roshni Das will be talking about education at the era of AI. And then we'll have a panel discussion with some experts who will be from AI educators to students to Mr. Saha from CBSE. So that's a whole power pack session that we have planned for today. So I welcome all the participants who have registered for that. I welcome all the speakers, the keynote speakers, and thank Intel for supporting us in this initiative on Digital India Dialogues along with UNDP. So with this, I conclude and look forward to an engaging session this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for setting the tone. And it's been wonderful having you with us on all our sessions and encouraging and inspiring everybody. With that, I would now like to welcome and invite Mr. Manoj Ahuja. He's a CBSE chairperson, and he's been instrumental in driving a lot of activities over the years. And as Abhishek Singh sir mentioned, CBSE introduced AI as part of the curriculum in 2019, and this has been a great move for the entire country. May I now request Mr. Ahuja to please share his thoughts with our audiences.
Thank you, Saloni, and my colleague Abhishek and all others who are present here. Very good morning, and I must compliment NEGD and Intel for coming together to hold these dialogues. I think it's very important that people who are in whatever way linked with the education sector come together, express their thoughts, and share their views about what is going on in the education sector and what IE means for the education sector. I just structured my presentation in, let's say, 3 parts, not a presentation or my talk. One is very obvious to all of us, and the speakers did allude to it. The fact that when we talk about a 4th industrial revolution, which is caused due to these emerging technologies, primarily AI, it means a very drastic change from what is going on. So what does that mean for the education sector? In terms of the education which has to be provided, in terms of preparing students for the future, for their work, for the skills, both cognitive, social, emotional, and other skills which they should have in that world so they can thrive and achieve their potential as human beings. Second is the instrumentality part. AI as a tool, how can it affect the education sector? And linked to it is the framework which will allow this to happen, which means the policy or the governance aspect. Clearly, our first reaction in CBSE was that students should actually know what AI is and how do we start integrating it with the curriculum. So like it was pointed out, with Intel's help, CBSE introduced, I think 2019 we introduced in class 9th and 10th. It's gone ahead to class 11th and 12th, and we've also introduced a module for class 6th, 7th and 8th. So it's across the years. Then we've also, since AI, since we are focusing on an interdisciplinary approach, we have asked, we prepared a kind of an integration of AI with curriculum, with other subjects, so that it benefits students and it's not seen as a standalone kind of topic. And that has gone on. We've also, we're working with Intel, IBM, other institutions. We've, on a pilot basis, set up 6 labs, just AI labs in government schools in Sikkim, in Arunachal and Tripura. They're going to be activated very soon. Abhishek did mention about responsible AI for youth. There is also an AI community portal which has been set up, and it's very, very interesting to note the ideas which are coming from students. And I can tell you there's no limit to their innovation and imagination. And that's one of the challenges we have. How do we capture the ideas they have, translate those ideas, mentor them, provide, incubate them so that they actually translate into really good projects on the field. But we've got an excellent response from that. We are working very closely with the Atal Tinkering Labs project with Niti Aayog, and we are soon starting, ATL Lite and even 1 or 2 mobile labs where schools which are in remote areas and children who do not have access to such facilities would also be at least exposed to all these technologies. Along with it, obviously, to create an ecosystem, and massive training program has been taken up. We've trained about 8,000, 9,000 students. And there is a huge demand for this subject, which means that a lot of students and a lot of schools want to take it up. So we will scale it up fast so that more and more students get access to AI. So we are working it's on a evolutionary basis, trying to improve the curriculum, integrate it, provide teachers, provide labs so that it becomes an integral part of the education and students are aware, and also develop the skills which will be required in a world where these technologies will play quite a big role. Coming to the instrumentality part, I think it can play a major. Any national education policy which came out last year is a very progressive policy and does mention about the use of AI. Primarily in terms of assessment, in terms of a holistic assessment of a child. If you have a lot of data points, maybe you can make a better assessment and give in a positive manner. It could be given to children and parents so that they can look at themselves and find out areas they need to work on. Secondly, it has very strong, it has shown and it has proved very strong benefits in terms of personalized learning. Every child is unique and learns in his own manner, and education can't be straitjacketed or be taught in one particular manner to all the children. AI would allow that personalized learning. It will allow children to learn at their own speed, make connections between different concepts. So if he's not understanding a particular concept, go back to a certain thing which AI can help, and in a way provide or empower a child to learn on his own at his pace and in a very diversified manner with access to a lot of other content which can make him learn. It has a very strong role in administration. Mr. Thakur did point out, yes, routine activities can all be taken up by AI. They can be there. I feel a very strong role it will play is in translation, language translation. India has so many languages, and if AI, if we get that accuracy, that validity, for which I think METI is working on a big project, if we can bring it, then it will make a big revolution in terms of promoting regional languages and working across schools, being able to translate things. Assessment right now, for example, this is a very practical need we have, and once we have the board exams, we take almost a month to evaluate. While objective type questions can be done through computers, but once it can recognize characters, it gets trained in OCR, we can feed in some intelligence, maybe a part of evaluation, routine evaluation can also be done by AI systems. AI systems, subsequently, you would have seen news reports where they write, they start writing news articles and things like that. So once questions are given in, AI systems can probably also start generating question banks and questions based on certain algorithms. So that's a big possibility where these can be used in the education sector and in CBSE, where I feel there is potential for using it. And CBSE is open. The areas I am pointing out, if there are startups who want to work on it, we would be very happy to partner with them so that these areas can be further researched and looked into. The other aspect obviously would be governance, which will play a huge role. And there is a lot of talk about AI replacing jobs, which I think would be in terms of routine mental jobs. AI can easily do it. Not the creative ones, not the ones which don't have patterns, not the ones which which need certain commonsensical things which probably AI may not be able to develop in the near future. So a strategy which is oriented towards AI augmented job creation. Use AI, but then how do we link up? How do we create jobs around it? It can, like Abhishek pointed out about health and using it to detect TB. There are so many ways where AI can perhaps do the basic work, but then you need human intervention and more jobs could be created. So that is one area I think we would need to. Second of area of concern would be making, since AI works on data, making data available in an anonymized manner to, let's say, people in the ecosystem, startups or others who are working. Again, we need to have a policy for that, so that since AI develops on data, data has to be made available to people who are working on it, but in a very anonymized manner. An issue with AI would come up about data privacy and the fine balance between collecting data and ensuring there is no surveillance and there is no intrusion into a person's privacy. Again, data laws are there, but that is one aspect we would have to look into. And finally, the problem with AI, many people raise about ethics and biases. It has been shown, but once we are aware about the biases, probably we can also make an active effort to check biases. The CBSE has introduced these courses, and we work in a very collaborative manner. And Abhishek, along with NEGD, certain areas which I pointed out and which are open, if there are startups, organizations wanting to work on it, we would be very happy to partner with, let's say, NEGD through you with them, just to provide them with a sandbox kind of environment where these products could be developed. Areas like evaluation, areas like assessment, areas like language translation, and any other areas. So I once again, I think, compliment the organizers of this workshop, and I think it's a very, very important topic on which we need to debate, come together, work together, and find out solutions, and see that whatever improvements can be done through AI, we should not be wasting time. We should be quickly working on them and getting them on the field. So thank you so much for inviting me for this talk, and it was a pleasure addressing all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And we look forward to working towards a lot of things that you mentioned here. Some of the initiatives are already on, and we are looking forward that we can all work towards creating a future-ready generation for our country. Thank you. And now our next speaker for today is Mr. Anshul Sona. Anshul is a principal engineer and director, digital readiness programs with Intel Corporation. Currently based in Singapore, he's a driving force for Intel's worldwide digital readiness programs aimed at education and skilling, future of work and policy initiatives, and democratizing AI and other emerging tech skills. The floor is yours, Anshul. We are just putting your presentation.
Okay, so you can share my slides, right?
Yes, Bhavik will be able to do that, yes.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, this is wonderful. Good afternoon or good morning. This is 1:30 p.m. for me, so I'm sorry I'm taking good afternoon. I'm based in Singapore. So thank you, Abhishek sir. Thank you, Manoj sir, for giving me this opportunity to come here and talk to all of you about this very important topic of AI and education. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking forward to interacting with you today. Just a little bit of an introduction about me. I call myself as a true Indian success story of education. The reason is I come from a very remote rural background in a small district called Bhandara, which is at the border of Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, and Maharashtra. So I come from a very small village with an agriculture family background. And I'm a principal engineer now at a global level for Intel. And I'm not even an engineer. So just to let you know, I'm a rural management graduate from Irma Anand, right? So being a principal engineer, talking about future of work and managing a global responsibility about future of work programs, and I will talk some of them. I think it's an honor to me and also a testimonial of success of Indian education system. So I just wanted to share with you my personal narrative or story on that a little bit. So I'm here. And you can see some of the pictures on my slide, which is from a small school in Sikkim, right? And that's exactly what we hope to achieve with these initiatives, truly demystifying and democratizing a very new and emerging skill like artificial intelligence for all people, irrespective of gender, location, background, ethnicity. Uh, Everybody should get a fair chance in new economy. So you may be from any place, any gender, any location. You should still have an access to the same technologies and same skill. So we are coming from that perspective here. And that's why I'm very proud to be talking about it today. Go to the next slide, please. Very quickly about Intel. Intel, as you know, is the world's largest semiconductor company, and we create microprocessors, which is like a brain of a computing power of any technology. It can be data center or computer or intelligent edge, whatever you may be using, like Internet of Things. And these technologies enrich lives of every people on the earth. So everybody gets a chance to interact with technology directly or indirectly, right? And that's what our corporate purpose is. And our vision is to then be a true trusted performance leader for all the true potential of technology. Next slide, please. When we are talking of the big disruption which we are seeing, right, you will see a lot of emerging technologies. Four big buckets of emerging technologies which you see over here, right? Cloud, connectivity like 5G, AI, which is again a collection of multiple technologies, intelligent edge, which is where you may be having a computer or a mobile or an Internet of Thing or a smart car, smart factory. So all that at an edge level where computing happens. These are all collection of new technologies which are disrupting our lives. And that's what we want to kind of be prepared for. As digital disruption happens, how about human digital readiness? How about creating more skills, creating more trust, creating more responsible usage for all these technologies? And that's what my job is in that sense at a worldwide level. So go to the next slide, please. Just to kind of explain the context, because last 1 year, as you know, a lot has changed. Technology and work or technology and economy is not a new topic, but a lot has changed in last 1 year for us to really rethink about this whole disruption, because COVID-19 has come together with automation and AI, right? So I want to kind of spend a little bit time for the audiences, especially my friends across state governments and various industries and other ministries, to really understand the sense of urgency behind this. So just because of COVID, we are talking about more than 50% of global workforce, which is at risk of losing livelihood. Various things which have got closed, delayed, so on and so forth. I mean, as advanced country as Singapore, just to give an example, only from yesterday we were starting to go out and eat. And imagine Singapore being a tourism economy, right? When all the restaurants are closed, literally hundreds and thousands of jobs are at risk because of COVID, right? So that's an example of economic loss on workforce because of COVID. If you combine it with the automation, which is which is equally hitting, right, the loss is far more stronger. And that's why when Abhishek sir said that they have a national AI policy, it's very important to take a note of it. Any national AI policy has to now play much more bigger role, much more competitive role to really rebuild national competitiveness, really rebuild human capital for the country, right? As industries are looking for new ways to revitalize, as economies are looking for new ways to revitalize, right? And in that context, workforce reskilling and people upskilling and reskilling and that broader digital readiness, which when we say digital readiness, we talk of skill, trust, and responsible usage. All this become very, very important. So we face the pressure. We equally recognize that governments have the pressure now to really revitalize that national competitiveness, national economies. And the big question is, what role new technologies like AI can play, and hence what can we do to fast track that growth so that it truly becomes inclusive for all people and not for some people who are in big companies or who have a luxury of bigger education or only in higher education and so on and so forth. So how do we make it truly inclusive? I think that is a bigger question here. Next slide. Yeah. So we keep on working with government leaders around the world, and invariably it comes down to upskilling the people, upskilling the workforce. I am just quoting a similar activity which we just did in the same program, Digital Readiness for Leaders, in Africa with 21 countries. Over there also, the biggest issue which any country like this will say is upskilling people, upskilling workforce. So any policy success is really dependent on people success, right? So upskilling, digital readiness has to be there as one of the key priority. And I'm very, very proud to say this, at least in India, we have taken a very, very significant bold steps in this, especially with CBSE, because I've been personally bit involved way back. And Dr. Saha would remember when you guys were just starting the CBSE articulation of how AI and education should come in. We engaged and we offered all our help, be it program, content, technology, our own manpower to really create the right model to spread it across country. And as I said, I am do these programs in 15 countries right now, including US, China, Germany, South Korea, Singapore, Argentina, Costa Rica, UK, Poland, Russia. But I must say, India was one of the first at that point of time, almost 2.5 years back. That time around the world, people were just starting to talk about it, but nobody had taken a real such a bold step. There were some countries who were doing it, but the kind of a plan which you guys take, Manoj sir, with CBSE and then responsible AI for really broadening it at a state government level is legendary. And I mean, and especially I being an Indian, I take a lot of pride in sharing that with a lot of UNESCO forums and UNDP and other forums, because that is a success story to be told. We often talk a lot about what doesn't work, but we should also, I believe we should also talk about what works. And this is one of the things in just 2 year time, we have accomplished a lot. In a larger education change, we all know 2 years is not enough time, but especially with this, we have done a lot. Next slide, please. So why this become very important? We all talk about job change and economic change, right? But I want to spend a few minutes very in simple words for everybody to understand the sense of urgency behind this issue. COVID and automation, which we are talking about as double disruption, is fast tracking that job change. So next 4 years, a lot of mundane jobs which are disappearing or which will continue to disappear, you see it on the left hand side. A lot of new jobs which will come, right? You see it on the right hand side. The point which doesn't come out in a slide, but which is a very important point is, though they look like a technical jobs, many of these look like a technical job, big data specialist, AI machine learning specialist, right? Internet of Things specialist. But a lot of time, these jobs are not just in technology company. These jobs do not just require coding programming skills. They may be an average job of doctors and engineers and lawyers who now require this skill. So a regular profession is getting changed with infusion of this kind of a skills like AI skills and data science skills. So, and that trend will only continue, that a normal non-technical workforce will have to acquire AI readiness, AI literacy in their own day-to-day job to remain competitive going forward. So it is not just a domain of a technical job and a technical industry anymore. It will become more and more integral in all parts of job. And I will make that point more clear in my subsequent slides. Next slide, please. What Intel does to help governments and partner with governments, like what we are doing with NEGD, CBSE and other places, is really help build that national competitiveness, because it's a shared value. If you grow, if country's capital grow and the country's human capital grow, industry grow and we grow. So it's not like doing good for the sake of good. It's doing good with the mutual benefits, right? So these are all non-commercial program. We don't actually sell any of this program, content, technology to you directly, right? But the idea is the country's technology ecosystem really become more responsible and grow for better education, better employability, better entrepreneurship and employment outcomes, so that eventually it leads to more national competitiveness and economic growth. So we have a range of programs, and I'll give you some examples on that. AI for Youth with CBSE is a good example to it. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah. So these are the programs which I said we are running in 15 countries, and I gave you some examples of it. So the bigger goal which we carry, and India plays a very significant role in that goal, is we want to really make this as a global footprint from Intel standpoint at least. So we have a goal of 30 countries, 30,000 schools and institutions, and 30 million people prepared for current and future job by 2030, aligning it to SDG number 4. And I just wish and hope out of that 30 million people whom we want to prepare for current and future jobs, most of them should be from India, because India has that demographic advantage, which we all know and talk. Next slide, please. So let us deconstruct this whole AI from an education standpoint so that my bigger point gets validated, that don't treat AI only as a technology problem. Treat it as a real human-machine partnership and a whole new way to go forward to really rebuild competitiveness. Purely from a definition standpoint, and a lot of you know about it, AI basically means machine to learn on its own. The way we collect data, right? Human beings, we collect data by eye, by touch, by mouth, by hearing. Similarly, machines collect data by computer vision, by natural language processing, and so on and so forth, right? Now, and then it start building intelligence with data, right? So that's what AI is. So it's not just technology. It is technology, but it's also a field of study, and it's a new way of thinking about intelligence. And that's why I keep on saying it will affect all kinds of jobs and not just technical jobs. So it's a broad spectrum. When you use Uber to go from one point to another point, or you any GPS, right? It may be a narrow AI. You are giving a very specific instruction. Okay, tell me how to go from point A to point B in minimum time with least money, right? With least painful traffic and so on and so forth. That's very narrow. But when you want to say to AI that, okay, help me organize my 5 lessons into one simple lesson, or I'm a lawyer and here are my 20 pages of reports. I want to come up with a 1 para synthesis out of it as an intelligent synthesis. Can AI help me? Answer is yes. And that's what we call as a general AI or a more intelligent AI, right? The one big problem, which is a big education related problem, is anything which AI has successfully done, it just becomes a software, right? And then there is an intelligence left if it is already out there. So from a human standpoint, it's very interesting. The premium to ask more question, the premium to really dig and bring more human skills actually become even more important with AI. So AI actually means we humans who can ask more questions, who can have more human-centric skills, can play much bigger role, because that machine cannot do, that only humans can do. Otherwise, once a machine does something, it becomes a piece of software, right? And I'm sure a lot of you know, and you may have your own kids in software industry. Just to let you know, software industry is going through such a huge change because of AI, because we always indexed software industry with only coding and programming. Those days are gone. Now today, coding and programming itself can be created by AI. So you don't need that many only coder and programmers. You need a new machine learning specialist and new types of skills. Those old days of basic coding and programming, the Y2K time, and those days are disappearing, as you know. So you have to rethink about what kind of a software skill also you need to teach, right, in a larger context. So that's why AI is a fast-moving field. Go to the next slide. So from that standpoint, I mean, the opportunities which we see here, right, and Abhishek sir talked about it a lot. I'll just give you a couple of simple tidbit to think about it from an opportunity standpoint, and which kind of cut across every industry and every sector, right? Today, just now, only 1% of available algorithmic data is actually getting meaningfully used for human benefits. So there are tons of data which we generate, right, in our e-governance project and education and everywhere else in life. There's so much more which can be done for intelligent way to help us for our own development goals. So AI can do much more if we really bring in this new type of thinking. Data is coming out. Data is a new oil. How do we process that data? Will require a lot many other pieces, especially a new mindset. So skill set and tool set is important, but what will be more and more required is a new way to think about it, the new mindset. And that's why at an organization level, right, especially after COVID times, because of the bottom line pressure and economic pressure, roughly 50% organizations, the large organizations, They say, oh yes, we should do something about AI. Very good, very cool. Okay, sexy to say all this, but how? You have to have people who understand, who have a business analytics capability, data science capability, and more importantly, social capabilities to understand right problem, eliminate biases, implement it in a right way to help human rather than hurt humans, right? So AI adoption is still very, very small. So the upside is very big. If we really bring and build a right human capability, we can do a lot more. And that is a point here. So upskilling and reskilling is a very, very important piece in this conversation. Fresh skilling at school level, technical, vocational, engineering level, and then at an organization level, right? Be it in government leaders or public sector leaders, giving them opportunity to upskill and reskill. Just to let you know, and I'm sure you, some of you may be knowing, Singapore has a whole focus ministry, Skill Future, just on this topic. How do I really upskill every single individual in the country for a person's true potential? It's not just education or employability issue or an employment issue. It's a holistic, lifelong learning issue for a national competitiveness. So we need to start thinking about it when we think about AI and education. How do we create that hunger of lifelong learning using AI as an enabler? Go to the next slide, please. And I guess that will be the big change we will start seeing it. And I want to kind of make it very, very practical for some of you who may be new to this topic, because all the work we do, right? The task which we do, how AI is changing it. I'm giving you some examples just to kind of illustrate the point. Because I'm a future of work specialist, so I kind of talk about how work is changing for the humankinds, right? So we do work in three typical ways, right? Hand, agriculture work as an example, cognitive, so brain, cognitive work, right? And then affective work, heart, right? Now, across all these three types of work, with just today's technologies, 50% of the world task can be automated. 50% of world task is a big figure. So if somebody want to just automate, technology is available. Now, do we do that? How much we do it? How do we do it? When and where we do it? Machine will not decide. That we have to decide as policymakers, as responsible users, as educators, right? And you see a lot of examples of other countries over there, right? How AI is getting used in nursing and agriculture and legal and medical. And it only brings to that bigger point, and which I'm very proud CBSE has taken a very different approach. Not treat AI only as a technical subject, but really infuse AI across all disciplines. It's very easy to narrow down AI to, okay, let my computer science guy handle it. Oh, I have a whole department of data science or IT, and they know everything about AI. Those days are gone, my friend, sir and madam. We need to think about AI impacting every single domain of work. Next slide, please. So what does it mean from human-machine partnership, and what human can do and what machines can do? So now with all the AI things coming out, we know that machines can do regular, mundane, predictable jobs when data is available. Transactional job, iteration, prediction, adoption, right? What humans can do, that also we know, right? Jobs which only you can do, right? Teaching is a good job example. Only humans can do far better than machines, right? So job which require leading, empathizing skill, creation skill, judging skills, this kind of a skills, human can do better. But now we need to start thinking about a whole missing middle, a new type of job which require a new way of human and machines coming together. And I'll give you an example of that, right? So we kind of categorize this into two buckets. One bucket where humans help machine, and the second bucket where AI is helping human. And the trainer, explainer, sustainer job is a good example of how humans can help machines. So go to the next slide, and I'll give you an actual job examples of what's coming out nowadays around the world, the kind of a jobs, and when those jobs are not available, what can happen. And that's why we need to think about AI as a technical as well as a social skill, as a true intelligence coming together. You see some of the jobs which are listed, these are real jobs, right? Explainer job, right? So I'll give you my own real example. I don't live in India for last 5 years, but I have my own bank account and credit card and things like that. So while my credit card renewal, I won't name that bank, right? My credit card renewal, because I have a good credit limit, I kind of get a waiving off of my annual fees. which I have been getting when I was living there. Now I don't live there. So because this kind of a bank transaction are done by chatbot, if you don't know, there is no actual human being. The chatbot is deciding, right? Because AI is deciding. By default, they have been giving, because I don't live over there and I had a break. By default, they started putting annual fees to me. And I'm wondering, okay, I had never done it in past. I have a credit card for last 25 years with this bank. Why is it doing it, right? And then I had to really spend a lot of time to reach out, and I was always putting it in a chatbot, and chatbot was not giving me a good answer. I had to reach out to bank and tell bank to tell a chatbot to get a human to speak to me and explain why are they doing it. So a human has to help a chatbot to explain, and if that is not happening, a customer like me will be always disappointed. So that is a good example of explainability strategist, how AI is taking a decision and why, right? And at what point human come in and help in a banking industry as an example to a potential customer, why annual fees is being given, at what situation I have to pay and what situation they give me a waiver, things like that. It's a real example. I felt very frustrated with this bank because chatbot was not able to explain to me why I was getting a waiver in past and why not now. But when a human come in and explain it, after human understand the AI algorithm and explain it to me, then I understand it. So this is an example of how job landscape is changing. The good news here is, as you can see, the missing middle argument, right? All this require more and more human skills. Trainer skills, explainer skills, and sustainer skills. Teachers, for example, can role model this skill far better. And that's why teacher jobs are so becoming more and more important than ever. More and more important. Teacher's job will become super critical in the world of AI. Now we have to kind of role model it and give it to teachers that this is not to take away your job because AI can do many jobs. This is to augment your job once you understand AI. And we are here to help you understand AI. AI as a technology, but more importantly, AI as an intelligence, and AI to make you as a more and more successful change agent for this new future of work, for this new job economy, and so on and so forth. So I think that is what we need to continuously role model with practical example to teachers. I will give you another example from an industry standpoint, which is a very stark and dirty example. I have lots of example, time permitting, but let me give you one. So this one big tech peer company, which is in India and which is our peer company and big customer, you can probably guess it, which has probably the world's biggest market capital at this point of time. They get for one job 10,000 application, which anybody gets. Even in Intel, we get for one job 10,000 application. Now, can you believe no human being can actually check 10,000 CVs, right? So there's an AI, an algorithm to check. Now, for one particular type of a job, if girls or women technologists have not applied in past, how will an algorithm learn that this job even girls can do? So what started happening was this company's AI job filtering algorithm started rejecting women around the world. Big problem. And it took a lot of time for them to recognize that, oh my God, this job, just because we didn't have women coming in past, it's rejecting because AI didn't have a data that women can also do that. So then they had to go and fix it out. And it became nearly a global PR disaster. You can't have this kind of an inclusion bias because of historically you carrying a people bias or a data bias or a model bias. Because historically you have not hired women for that job. So machine do not know, and machine do not know, so it start filtering it out in further future. Now that is what we need to really role model in education. How do we remove biases? People bias, model bias, any of this technology biases. That's exactly what we want to bring in. So go to my next slide. And I think that is what I mean by a new mindset. See, the point here is tool sets are going to be available. NEGD, Ministry of IT is doing fantastic job in really democratizing AI tools and AI data. That is coming out all over India. I come from a small town, Bhandara. I know people over there in schools, in the government schools are now talking about this. Tool set, it will happen, matter of time. Skill set, all of us will work and more skills will get democratized, and our higher education system, technical education system, industry partners, all of them will do a lot of work. Mindset, most difficult one. That is where I think we need a lot of your support, industry, teachers, school leaders to come together and help CBSE, help NEGD to really make a big difference for India's human capital, for India's national competitiveness. That is the most important point here. I'm going to kind of very quickly deconstruct this for you in terms of use cases, how AI is actually getting used. It's a little bit technical. Some of you may already be knowing it, but just to explain you the picture. But my bigger point, mindset is the most important thing. Skill set, number two, we have to collectively build and work. And the skill set of not just learning the skills of AI, but also how to apply it to solve real problem. And we have a panel discussion later on when you will hear me talking to one of the teacher and one of the students along with Dr. Saha on how they are building outcomes, education outcomes after they learn those skill sets. So learning is not enough. Doing something with the learning, right? And how to do it, right? So that's very, very important point, right? But the most important point is mindset here. So let me explain this in terms of what we are doing in India and so on and so forth, right? So that's you have a perspective on this. Three big areas to think: AI education, how to really gain AI education itself; AI in education, how to use AI for my day-to-day education, subject, delivery, teaching, learning; and then AI for education processes and things like that. Next slide, please. Okay, so this, I mean, friends from CBSE already know I have taken with a matter of pride. I have taken CBSE material and put it on the website, all the CBSE booklets. This is what we helped and partnered with CBSE, actually building class by class AI education. And state governments who want more help, they can reach out to us, they can reach out to CBSE, and I'm sure we can find ways to help you replicate this model. Grade 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, how to map up AI education curriculum. Just to let you know, you might not be surprised. I work in countries like China, South Korea, and other countries. In China, they started doing this from grade 2, grade 3 now. So other countries looking at our model, and we have done a lot of talking about CBSE model around the world, including in China and South Korea and Singapore and other places. But other countries are now going faster. They're taking more bolder steps. So, I mean, I'm sure my Intel team over there and CBSE, we will not rest with just this. We will expand beyond this, right? So this is AI education part. Let's go to the second part, AI in education, AI for a subject. So this is AI as a subject in itself. Go to the next slide. Yeah, okay, you can skip this. This is a program level. Okay, I mean, I've talked about this. So there are, okay, let me just spend 1 minute on this very quickly. For AI as a subject itself, so we come up with a whole open content. It's a free content, which we give it to CBSE, schools, teachers, we train them so that they can start learning and using it and so on and so forth. It's done in a 4 stages of learning journey. Because we are talking of a non-technical workforce, a very average student who may not be having a technical affinity, right? For them to learn, you have to inspire them in a very non-technical, easy, gamified, engaging ways. Then build a pedagogy model so that they start building their own higher order thinking in acquiring AI disciplines like AI project cycle, data science, and then take it to the actual applications, be it around statistical data, machine learning, deep learning, all those things, computer vision, natural language processing, and to think about, like as I said earlier, right? AI also want to mimic human. So I see, computer also see, computer vision, right? I speak and I hear, computer also do that with natural language processing and all that, right? So we have to demystify to that level for that typical 12-year, 13-year-old, 14-year-old, so that they can do the connection. If I have to bring a neural network connection for this kind of a kids, I can't just bring a very complicated topic of neural network in a very technical way. We have to train teachers to think and talk in a very easy, fun activity way to really demystify neural network into different nodes to really understand how decisions get taken. And that skill is then helpful, not just for technical life, for technical career, but for us as a larger education itself. So that's what we try to infuse from a pedagogy standpoint in acquire and experience stage. And then the last stage, empower, whereby you actually do something with it. The premium of education is no more in learning. The premium of education is in show me what have you done. Can you give me the proof? Can you show me your actual portfolio of work? So encouraging them to do something with that learning, right? Through a real project. So that's what we put it in empower stage. And this is a rough construct, and then CBSE has modified it. So I'm showing you the global construct, right? And CBSE has modified it, mapped it to class by class. So any state government who's interested in doing this, feel free to reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to have a conversation. Next slide, please. You can skip this. This is basically saying that tech skill and social skills both are important in this, right? And range of tech skills and the social skills, especially the social skills around inclusion, biases, AI ethics, right? So things like that are very, very important. Problem solving, critical thinking, organizing, communication. I give you an example of AI communication, explainability strategist as a job. How do I make sure that we can explain AI decision to somebody else in a simple, non-technical word in my day-to-day life? So those kind of skills. Go to the next slide, please. The second component, AI in education. And again, I have taken with pride the CBSE material here, how we have partnered with CBSE and really mapping actual science, maths, English, and I think we have now gone to other subjects like history, geography, Hindi, right? Using AI principles, equipping teachers, and then encouraging them to use it for their own subject delivery in a far better way. So the subject of Hindi or science do not change. It's just that you as a teacher have a better capability to deliver. And then in that processes, you bring more AI infused learning environment. You create more technical confidence, which is very critical for the jobs of today and tomorrow. And you most importantly create that right skill set and mindset beyond giving access to tool sets. So that's the AI in education. And later in the panel, we will have Miss Dolly, one of our good teacher, who will talk to you about how she's using AI for English, for storytelling and vocabulary and things like that. So I have some good examples on that for you to think about. Go to the next slide. The last piece, which is a very commonly taught, using AI for personalization, process improvement, quality improvement, more equality, more efficiency. Now, this is where a lot of administrative planning for AI is required. Improving AI education processes for students, for teachers, for schools. And today we have enough use cases, and we can show it to you if you are interested, for all kinds of education processes. For example, cheating recognition, attendance tracking, right? I'm just giving you some crazy examples. Collaboration, right? Students, needing some kind of a student management skills. So there are AI ready use cases which you can adopt based on your own current education efficiency projects, right? At a state level or in a departmental level. And these are all ready use cases. You have to just take it and then kind of start fitting into your own processes. And Intel has a team who can help you on this. So that's AI for education. So three things, as I said: AI education, AI as a subject. Second, AI in education, English, math, science, social science, language, Hindi, etc. Right? And the third, AI for education processes, for student, teachers, schools, so on and so forth, for better quality, better equality, better efficiency. Go to the next slide, please. So, I mean, my conclusion or my last slide before I show you just one India example. Please think of AI not just from a technology tool set standpoint. The hardware, the software, the libraries, all this will be available. It's getting democratized a lot. And NEGD and Ministry of IT and all other people are there to help us, right? The tool set is there. Skill set, education needs to take a much more responsibility. Teachers, school systems. Now, text, and when I say text, the skill set, I'm talking of technical skill in itself, which is where the data science, computer vision, natural language processing, machine learning, deep learning, those kind of technical skill sets. How do we bring it into education? And I gave you some models of CBSE as a good example, right? More importantly, social skills, AI ethics, biases, explainability. I talked a lot about explainability and biases. System thinking, social impact creation. So those skill sets that become very important. The middle is the most critical, which is missing right now in most of the countries around the world. Mindset, understanding future of work, becoming more disruption ready, discovering your own personal purpose, social purpose of AI, understanding possibilities and pitfalls. What can go wrong with my decision as an individual user, as a school, or as an institution, or as a work? And then start thinking about pitfalls. And I give you example of this 10,000 CVs getting shortlisted by one robot. And in past, if the CV has not come from a woman, robots start or the chatbot start rejecting it, we'll have a bigger societal issues with that kind of a divide if we allow with AI. So we have to think about, we have to learn, we have to develop more and more inclusive culture in human so that AI can role model it. AI will learn only from us. So we have to be more inclusive if we want AI solution to be more inclusive. We have to give respect to our elderlies in our day-to-day talking if we want Alexa in your home to be more respectful to you. Some of you may know Alexa already learned some abusive words and started talking about it, right? Who taught Alexa those abusive words? We, right? So that's the whole mindset conversation which we need to role model. Those are some of the key to successes for critical human-centric AI skills. Go to the next slide. So I want to just show you this India slide as an example because we were very honored to get this opportunity from both Abhishek sir and Manoj sir to engage in this process much earlier. And we have got multiple opportunities, and I've just picked some pictures to show to larger population, larger leaders at state and other departments and at schools. We have been very, very personally honored, thanks to Manoj sir and Abhishek sir, with this opportunity of engaging both with President, Prime Minister, Education Minister, IT Minister. I have a small video, but because of a lack of time, I'm not showing it right now. And some of you may have already seen it. And I want to say that India is all about scale. India is all about inclusive impact. So we need to kind of think about AI from that lens, inclusive AI, impact of AI, human-centric AI, right? And you guys have taken a fantastic first step. We are in it. We are in this long journey with you together. A lot has to be done, but we will walk together with you. And with this, thank you so much for the opportunity. And Shweta, you may want to say some words to just complete my presentation. Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Anshul. I just wanted to take a moment to thank Mr. Abhishek Singh, Mr. Vinay Thakur, Dr. Alok Goyal, and his entire team at NEGD. Also, Mr. Manoj Ahuja, Dr. Saha, RP Singh, and the entire team at CBSE. The scale which Anshul is showing in this foil would not have been possible without your collaboration, without your partnership. So thank you so much for helping us making the new generation AI ready in India. Thank you. Back to you.
Yeah, and we have one or two more questions on subject interest, and so it's a good question, which I think in the panel we will be addressing while we talk to actual teachers, Dolly and Dr. Saha and student. So you have some real examples of how this can be done. So we'll hold on that. Any other burning question which for me, feel free to ask, or then over to you, Saloni.
So Anshul, we have a lot of questions, but as I see, a lot of them are about AI integration. And I think we may be able to take them up in the panel discussion session that we have. But yes, I don't know if you were able to look at the chat section. An amazing session. We have some very, very positive feedback and some very interesting pieces. A lot of people are talking about the examples that you took. So thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. And we will definitely have a lot of questions for you in the next panel discussion.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Shweta. So it's been an interesting discussion, and now let's make it even more interesting. So we have something, a fun activity for you. We call it experiential AI. And to help us taking through it, I would request Akshay, an Intel AI for Youth coach, to please take it from here. Akshay?
Thank you so much, Saloni. So it has been an exciting day so far. We have spent 1 hour, 10 minutes in learning about AI and how it has been spreading across in the education field. So let us see how educated we are about AI and how much do we know about AI through a very quick quiz about artificial intelligence. So we have put on the screen a PIN number and a link. We are putting the same in the chat section also. We request you all to please go to the link and enter the PIN given and participate in the quiz. Once you open the link, you will be asked to enter a number. You can put the number 3250188, and from there you can write a name which is for you. So you can write your name, or if you want, you can go beyond that and write some exciting name, maybe use some superheroes as your name, some exciting names that you want. So we already have 3 participants so far. We request all of you to please join the Kahoot quiz, and let's see how much do we know about artificial intelligence so far. So you can even have interesting names, your favorite superhero, your favorite Bollywood hero, anything that you want, you can have it. Feel free to do that. Wow, we are having a lot of interesting names. We have Batman, we have Tendulkar, we have Dexter, Miss Dexter, we have Dora. It's good to see so many interesting names coming up. We have 61 participants so far. We request all of you to please quickly join so that we can start the quiz and move forward. Okay, we have Intel also playing with us. We have Architect, we have again one more Batman, Humane AI. We have Barbie with us. Being Human is there with us. All right, we will wait for 1 more minute for participants to join, and then we will begin the quiz. Okay, we have humanoids also with us playing the quiz. Feel free to have as interesting, as vivid names as possible. So meanwhile, I will explain you how this game works. On your screen, you will see a question which I will also be showing you over the screen, and there will be 4 options to it. You will have to choose the right option, but that is not just about it. You will also have to be fast. So the faster one will get more points, and even if you are right and you are taking a bit more time, you might get less points. So it's all about being fast and being right. So let's see who is having the fastest fingers and the best human intelligence in the room, full of government employees and talking about AI. Let's begin the quiz. The first question, which AI technology helps a machine identify faces like humans do? You might have used it, you might have explored it. A lot of you would surely have used it in your daily lives. Let's see how many of you get it right. Yes, it is facial recognition. Facial recognition is the technology which helps machines identify faces like humans do. We have a new user who is on the top, Algo on the second, Hawkeye on third, Kartike Pandey, a student, on fourth, and Thor on fifth. So the points vary depending on how fast you are. Second question, which AI application is this? So in the image, there's a text given in one language. You can see it in the phone in another language. Which of the 4 options is this? We have very, very wide answers, but most of them are yes, right? Auto translation. This is the feature which we have in our phones through which AI detects the text, converts it in the right language which we want, and we can read it. Now the leaderboard has drastically changed. We have Kartikeya Pandey leading, we have Veer on second, Batman on third, Barbie on fourth, and Samton on fifth. Third question, which of the following is not an authentic source of data? Fakenews.com is not an authentic source. So whenever we are talking about AI, we need data, but data should be very reliable. We can have data from government websites, from news reports, even from interviews, but having data from fakenews.com might not be very reliable. Leaderboard more or less remains the same. We have change in last two positions. Ney and Yash have taken over to fourth and fifth position. Fourth question, true or false? Is deep learning a part of artificial intelligence? Yes, almost all of you are right. Deep learning is part of artificial intelligence, which involves a lot of data to be trained. It changes leaderboard a bit, Weed falling from second position to fourth, and Batman and Ney taking over to second and third position. We have a new person, Ant-Man, at the fifth position. It's interesting how close your scores are. Fifth question, which sustainable development goal is this? Of course, it is quality education. So when we talk about sustainable development goals, there are 17 goals, each of them having their own logo or icon, we can say. For the quality of education, this is the one. Again, the leaderboard has drastically changed. Ant-Man, who came to fifth position in the last round, has taken over to the second position. And we have Alok, Sunny, and FA on third, fourth, and fifth position. Sixth question, which month of the year has 28 days? This is an interesting question. Let's see how many of you have got it right. Exactly, it was a trick question. All the months have 28 days. All the months in the year have 28 days, and we congratulate the 30 guys who actually read all the options and chose the right one, because yes, all the months in the year have at least 28 days. The leaderboard has changed a bit. Let's have a look at the seventh question. Which country has world's fastest data usage per smartphone per month? Now that's an interesting data that we are talking about. India, of course, 9.8 GB of data we are talking about every day we are using on an average. Moving ahead to eighth question. Which of the following can artificially intelligent machine do? Yes, it can do all of the above. It can predict, it can make decisions, and it can handle huge amount of data. Okay, the leaderboard is changing. Mons is at the first position, Ant-Man second, FA third. Ninth question, which of the following inventions would not be commonly used by 2050? Of course, time travel. A lot of all the others are a lot in development, and some of them we are even starting to use already. So we can expect them to expand by 2050. Moving ahead to the second last question. How much data is generated every day at present? Can you guess a number? 2.5 quintillion. If you want to see how much is it, you can Google about it. It is 10 to the power 30. 2.5 into 10 to the power 30. Moving to the last question, your last chance to beat. Does artificially intelligent machine has its own bias? Yes or no? We have a very divided answer for this, but false. It is not true. Machine does not have its own bias. It is the developers or the creators bias that we talk about. So let's see what does the leaderboard look like right now. On the third position, we have FA with 10 out of 11 answers right. Muns with 11 out of 11 right. And with 10 out of 11 but faster replies, we have Ant-Man. Please identify yourselves in the chat section, and congratulations to all of you.
Thank you, Akshay. Thank you so much for
Over to
taking
you,
us.
ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for taking us this through. And I'm sure everybody must have enjoyed and refreshed. And now is the time to invite our next speaker. May I invite Ms. Reshma Agarwal from NEGD to take us through the National Digital Education Architecture and give us all an overview of it. Reshma, over to you. Please go ahead, Reshma.
So I hope my screen is visible.
Yes.
Great. So in this current session, we are going to talk about the National Digital Education Architecture and how it is using artificial intelligence and how it is adopting artificial intelligence. So to give you a background, we have a lot of applications. We have got a lot of systems across India developed by the public sector, the private sector. So we are already a data-rich nation, and we have a lot of data which is lying all around. And we understand that the network of data which is there can be made of greater use once connectivity and interoperability is achieved. So the NDA architecture tries to identify these islands of data and devise suitable mechanisms so that this connectivity can be established. So when we start the architecting exercise, we start with the policy recommendations, the national education policy,
2020, which already has a bearing on education and educational technology. So we are looking for light but tight governance, early childhood care and education, a greater girl enrollment ratio, interactive and immersive content, AI-based 360-degree progress card of a student, foundational literacy, numeracy for all, online platform for teachers, standards for e-learning and teaching, addressing the digital divide, and the National EduTech Forum, which will take this journey of artificial intelligence in India further. So NDR caters to the major stakeholders or actors in the ecosystem. So what are the actors? Who are we trying to help? So it's the student, of course, the parent, the teacher, community member, and the administrator. So these are the five stakeholders or the five actors which are involved in this NDR ecosystem. There are three interactions, which are majorly three major scenarios in which these interactions have been identified. That is to learn, help learn, and manage learn. So this is the PME Vidya vision. So this is an overall vision of which the major platform, which is Diksha, is also a part, and other components are also a part, or the building blocks are also a part of this uh, vision. So over here we see that the vision is to enable coherent multi-channel and multimodal learning continuum at school, after school, at community center, at home, both synchronous and asynchronous, online and offline, physical, digital, self-service, and assisted. So the idea is to exponentially expand the channels through which the student and the major actors can get access to engaging content and can enhance their learning abilities, and anywhere, anyone, any through can experience, interact, and collaborate to learn. So this is the vision slide. And if you look into PM Vidya, it has got Diksha. So Diksha is already running in a lot of states and a lot of schools, wherein a lot of e-content is available. QR coded energized textbooks are available. In these textbooks, they are using AR, VR capabilities. Apart from Diksha, the television, radio, e-content for visually and hearing impaired, and over 100 universities are starting courses. So if you look into the federated NDR architecture, the National Digital Education Architecture. So this is a kind of a snapshot, which is easier to understand. Over here at the bottom layer, we are having standards-based, API-based integrations. And so we have the NDR open standards and specifications, which would allow interoperability. There are core domain-specific core identities and registries which are identified. And there are national level components or building blocks like learning services, governance, reference applications, education, ecosystem sandbox, data analytics, technology, and infrastructure. So there are some building blocks at the national level. Again, there are some building blocks at the state level. So state level having state board governance, learning services, state board administration, a state board ecosystem sandbox environment, state board data analytics, technology and infrastructure, state board identities, state board registries, etc. And of course, the bottom or the last mile connectivities with the school level, which is having access to a lot of identities wherein this is where the federated nature is actually materialized, wherein the school administration has the ability to connect with the state and the national level and report the data through this mechanism. These are the building blocks. These are just for your reference, nothing to go into detail as of now. It's just for your reference. You can have a take a look. There are certain open standards which have been proposed to allow greater integration. So these are the standards, etc., which are listed. And these are this is a summary of the envisaged benefits. So it ranges right from the parent and student to the teacher, community members, startups, industry, administrator, and the ministry. So a greater connectedness is now to be experienced, which will allow more and more data to be available with all these actors and stakeholders, which will not only help them do their work better, but also use, since so there will be more data, so there will be more use of artificially intelligent machines to analyze and provide insights to the data. So now we come to the next phase of the presentation, which is around Diksha. So Diksha is a one nation, one digital platform for school education. It is based on the open Sunbird architecture, Sunbird solution. And it has been rolled out in around 35 states. It's available in 33 languages. So there's a lot of content, a lot of textbooks, contents, etc., which are available. And of course, it is being, especially in the times of lockdown, is being, the usage has also gone up exponentially. So the Diksha is a federated and multi-tenant system. So it's a platform which can allow the states to also build an interface of their own on it and use as well as upload the content. It has got diverse content capabilities and engagement capabilities. So the target user base is mostly students and teachers, administration and parents are also benefited. It helps in building a lot of resilience, physical data, etc. And it is equipped with advanced capabilities of AI, augmented reality, virtual reality, 3D elements, etc., and credential capabilities. So Diksha for school students, if we see how the usage has been increasing exponentially, so we can see in this graph. So we are seeing that not only is the content increasing exponentially, of course, there are more and more users which are getting benefit on this platform. It has a wide-ranging content capability as well as formats. So it includes capabilities across the various gamuts. So if you look into the formats it is supporting, you can see that there are a lot of formats which are being supported over here. And it has been built using certain architecture principles, which is microservices based, evolvable, configurable, multi-tenant, scalable, resilient, secure by design, and allows unified system. So we can have a glance through the AI or ML usage within Diksha. So it has a multi-language content, book parsing, text extraction, content curation, Indian language translation, automated assessment, text to digital conversion, Indian language voice detection and analysis, content or course automated recommendations, video analysis and translation, data analytics for learning, and content usage analytics. So, so the way in which Diksha is able to get content is, of course, through they not only use the streaming events which is available, they are also using telemetry events to collect data, and these are being assessed through using of languages like Julia, Python, etc., and deep learning, clustering algorithms, etc., are employed. And again, the resultant is again uh, the assessment results are again passed on as streaming events. So using artificially intelligent means it has been possible to conduct weekly assessments and ensure that better learning capabilities are available with the students, and better assessment is available with the teachers, especially in these times that we are learning virtually. There is a lot of semantic knowledge, which is machine learning based knowledge mapping, which has kind of been used in Diksha. So the resources, etc., are mapped in a manner, in an intelligent way, so that they are easier to find and easier for the student to understand. So it's the Diksha platform is ontology driven, API driven, data driven, and specifications driven. These are some of the feedbacks which have been received, more of a testimonials from students as well as teachers regarding Diksha. So this in a way completes the presentation, and if maybe we can we can have, if it is possible, people can possibly throw the possibilities. So in a way, if you can envisage the possibilities through which artificial intelligence can be used in the education ecosystem, maybe you can put it on chat so that we can discuss it and have a more interactive session.
That's great, Reshma. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we have some questions coming down here on the chat. We will connect them back with you. We've also put down some links here for everybody so that they know that, the topic that we're talking about, AI, there is already a lot of information about it on the Diksha platform itself. And the people who were asking about the AI integration, we have shared some links which they can access. So thank you, Reshma. Thank you so much for taking us through the NDER and talking to about the Diksha platform. Thank you. All right, moving on now, I would like to invite Ms. Roshni Das, Director Marketing, Intel India, to share her thoughts on how technology can be a great enabler to create a sustainable ecosystem. Over to you, Roshni.
Thank you, Saloni. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm glad to be here. I do want to say thank you to Mr. Vinay Thakur, Mr. Manoj Ahuja, and for Mr. Abhishek Singh for the opening insights. Thank you very much. It was wonderful, of course, to hear Anshul. He always makes the topic on AI so exciting, and I'm sure all of us are geared up to look at mass deployment on AI because of the way he, narrated it so simply. In the next few minutes, I would like to share my thoughts on how we can collaborate with a specific focus on education. Some of the themes may be similar to what Anshul has said, but I'd like to build on with newer examples in the area of education. Next slide, please, Saloni. So for the fourth industrial revolution is not a new conversation, as we've been hearing all morning. What is new is the acceleration of digitization for AI readiness. Anshul in the morning also talked about a few numbers, but the recent McKinsey report talks about data and artificial intelligence adding about 500 billion to India's GDP in 2025. That's 10% of the 5 trillion aspirational economy that the Indian government has set out as a goal. The McKinsey report also talks about how human and machine will have a diversification, and they will be focused on jobs that have more cognitive, social emotional skills, and more thinking and problem skills. Our CEO recently spoke at the UN Assembly, and he talked about how every aspect of humanity is now coming online. But the bigger focus of AI and emerging technologies is the opportunity for them to problem solve and to look at economic progress. Next slide, please. But as the world is transforming, I think we also have to look at some of the challenges that we need to solve in the immediate environment, right? One is that the gap between digital divide and the learning gap on the back of this pandemic has actually increased. 272 billion days of learning have been disrupted as per the World Economic Forum. And a more recent study also talks of the fact that 6 out of 10 adults lack basic ICT skills. This is alarming for us as people, as government, as educators, and as corporates. And we need to look at AI as adding value to see how we can solve some of these education challenges. At the same time, AI is transforming. You know, Anshul also talked about how AI will take away some of the repetitive, manual, physical labor jobs. But the good news is that they will be replaced by emerging roles. So 97 million new jobs by 2025 using more technological skills. And we need to build our education systems to look at this, to look at resiliencies. And as Anshul talked about, the mindset to adopt to these future needs, right? The other data point that you may want to look at also, as we add more roles into AI, the amount of focus on manual, on physical skills will go down by 11 to 16%. But the good news is technological skills will get added by 60%. So the point to take away here is that AI, as we heard in the morning, is not about just displacing human skills, but also augmenting our capabilities to more problem solving, to look at more economic progress. So we need to look at artificial intelligence as augmenting human capabilities to solve for larger challenges. Next slide, Saloni. India is the automation capital of India, and we've got fantastic technologically savvy talent in India. And while Anshul talked about some emerging roles, I also wanted to talk about some roles far out in the future. On the left are some of the roles the US has put together. Just look at the amazing roles that are available as future of jobs. 3D printed clothing designers, AI lawyers, robotic behavior designers, gene programmers. So we need to prepare for what the future holds. And more importantly, technology keeps evolving. While you're seeing some of these jobs evolving today, more and more as we add more AI capabilities, these jobs will continue to evolve. On the right side are some of the jobs that are evolving in India today. Mr. Abhishek Singh actually talked about the fact that India actually ranks very heavily across many rankings, because unlike a lot of other countries, we have made a lot more quicker strides in accepting the fact that jobs of tomorrow are going to need different skills. What's important, as we've all been hearing, is not what you know, it is how you apply. If you look at the bottom, a quote by the US Secretary, the ex-US Secretary, we are currently preparing students for jobs that don't yet exist, using technologies that haven't yet been invented in order to solve problems we don't even know are problems yet. So just think about it. You can see AI lawyer on the far left. You know, as AI becomes an entity in the future, you're going to need somebody to look at AI laws, and therefore there's going to be focus on jobs like AI lawyers. Look at the combination of science, maths, and food. So a 3D food engineer would be a different combination of skill sets. As nanotechnology becomes more and more coming out of experimental stages and going into medical applications, you're going to need nanomedical engineers. And so as Anshul says, the careers of tomorrow are going to be a blend of today's careers, plus we'll need a lot of technological, social, and cross-functional skills to define these futures. I'd also like you to read the Gartner report that focused on education. Some of the emerging themes of today in the Gartner report also reflect that. They talk about the need for digital dexterity. They talk for the need of analytics everywhere. They talk about ethical use of data, next generation security, smart campuses. All of this is something that we need to prepare for, and a big part of it is skill sets. Next slide, please. But to be prepared for tomorrow, to be prepared for the skills of tomorrow, for the future workforce of tomorrow, we need a systematic change. I'll just break this down into three, and I'll also build on one of the examples that was there in the previous session by Anshul. One is our comfort as a team here, right? As policymakers, as government, as corporates, as educators, we have to be comfortable about integrating emerging technologies and AI into education. We are really proud about our association with the government and with CBSE for bringing in AI into education. And the more we can adopt it at various levels, the easier it will become to change skill sets for the future. More importantly, I think as a team here, we need to be able to debate, embrace, and look at AI as something that we need to all learn about. So I would request governments to also look at understanding, because as you understand AI, so also will that go into public-private policy making. The other piece on building integrated emerging technologies and AI into education is keeping on radar the emerging data scientists and emerging people who are good at AI as we build new curriculum. Like corporates build board of advisors and they take an outside-in approach, keeping in radar some of the leading data scientists, young youth, that can help you define your curriculum is the need of the hour. The middle portion is an example that I want to build off from what Anshul also talked about. Remember, he talked about the job applications and how AI was weeding it out. And you also took a fun question, and I saw that 70 people had talked about machines having a bias versus 82 people had talked about machines not having a bias. It's very right. Machines don't have biases. The people who input into those machines have biases. Therefore, if you want to have an equitable society, if you want to have a society that can solve economic problems, or health problems, challenges of digital divide, we have to have a voice into that open development, into managing biases. This is a small experiment that I did yesterday. I typed jobs best suited to males, and look what came up. First, the algorithm qualified 15 best paying jobs for men. And then it picked up jobs like software developer, computer hardware, electrical engineer, etc., etc. I did the same thing on the right for jobs best suited to females. The algorithm then qualifies some of the best careers for women in this field are physicians, nursing, medical. So more nurture jobs here, more technical jobs here. So the reason I'm bringing this to you is that we see that the more robust we can have input in terms of data, the machine algorithms will be better and better to learn. And therefore the output towards building an equitable society, to building a society that can solve for problems, and to have a point of view that is unique to ours and reflects some of the social and cultural dynamics of India should also be built in. And therefore access to data sets is very, very important for innovation. The third piece is showing stories of positive change. As we know, AI is not something out of science fiction. What ends up happening is because it has the word machine, it has the word artificial, people think of it as something out of science fiction. AI is everywhere. It's very commonplace today. When you go on e-com and you're searching for a dress or for a pair of shoes, the recommendation engine at the back of it is AI. Chatbots that Anshul talked about are powered by AI. A lot of commonplace AI technologies are already there. Text to speech, fraud detection, they are commonplace. Your streaming on your movie platforms are all through AI. But where we are using, and we've also made a huge amount of progress that Mr. Abhishek Singh talked about in terms of AI using cutting edge technologies like medical precision in medicine, injury prediction, autonomous driving. So as we hear these terms, showing those changes and inculcating education at an early stage and showing positive change is also very, very imperative and help all of us embrace technology much faster. Next slide, please. The next slide actually talks about some very interesting examples. The previous slide, Anshul talked about all the work that we have done, AI in education, AI for education, AI as education. The AI for Youth program that he mentioned is our focus across governments globally to bring AI for youth in a very inclusive way. This is an amazing slide of the possibilities that the future can hold if we have more and more inculcation of emerging technologies as part of the way you would study any other curriculum. Six of these students from class 10 to 12 have patent pending technologies. And the technologies are about power plant location detectors, which look at sustainable power plant intelligence of usage of electricity. It talks about problems closer to our house, which is about reducing consumption of our electricity through something called the eco-vault. The visual assistant for the blind, walking stick enabled with some level of vision to help the blind move safely. And there is AI autism assistance, where you can help autistic people communicate better in real time and manage their emotions better. These are just a few of the cases young children have built out. And can you imagine the power of equipping more and more students with the thinking ability, with the technological skills to help solve for many, many challenges that India faces today. Next slide, please. This program, as I'd also like to say, today has over 100,000 students involved, as we also heard in the morning, and we hope to continue to drive a lot of focus and scale through our AI readiness program. So these were examples. We talked about a bit of systemic change. How do we look at all of this from an external point of view, right? We have to look at how we're going to take some of this knowledge to application. One part of it is the Oxford Index Readiness, Insights Readiness Index. Right? As Mr. Abhishek Singh also said, globally, we do very well across many rankings, and kudos to the team here that is enabling all of this. This is also one other framework, but I think we're ranked globally at the 40th rank, and maybe regionally, we're still #1. But not to talk about the numbers, the focus is the spirit of how we can engage on readiness index like this. This is on the left side, and I'll talk about it in a minute. And on the right side, it is not just about frameworks and toolkits. As we heard before, it is also about resilience and mindsets. And I'll talk about some of the easy ways that we can bring AI into our classrooms. I understand possibly this is already happening. I'm probably preaching to the experts here, but I did want to share some of my thoughts. So on the left side is the role of three things when they come together and work in harmony. The readiness quotient on emerging technologies goes up. One is the role of the technology sector, right? Enablement of tools and capabilities, enablement of AI readiness programs like we're doing, enablement of looking at grassroots innovations, through software, through edtech, through technology baseline, technology companies baselining. So what through AI labs, through a lot of our infrastructure, the hardware and software capabilities that technology can bring in. So having a foundation of the technology sector adding into this area. And here is when, public-private participation and partnership is a very critical aspect. The other part is data and infrastructure. Like I said, the machine learning algorithms today can only improve with more and more data sets going in. So access to data, open data, of course, de-identified, is very, very critical. We have made so much progress today in being able to look at data and analyze it so much more effectively. So as we can say, suppose we want to look at a cure for, I'm just taking an example, cancer, having de-identified medical records, having the ability to look at genomics, having to look at state-of-art treatments through investment in R&D, having simulation of AI labs are all going to help us access this data and infrastructure and build for a more robust set so that the algorithms will throw out, more accurate solutions. The last bit is the government, but the most important piece of it. We have seen a ton of examples through the morning on where the government has made so much progress, and kudos to all of those progresses. We've heard about Niti Aayog's AI for all. We just talked about the India discussion that just preceded us. Plus, we are very proud to see so much of change happening in the National Education Policy 2020, which looks at not only bringing AI into the curriculum, but also knowing that problem-solving techniques and looking at a why as a focus across our education curriculum. Which also brings me to the piece on the right side. Having a framework is important, but also looking at focus on mindsets and building for a generation that is a thinking generation is very important. Here are some of the examples. I'll walk through 2-3 of these. As you heard from Anshul also, the capability today of the focus of individuals has to be on analyzing the data. Yes, rote learning is important, and you also saw India talking about, how when there's rote learning, AI can help, understand and assess the marks, etc. But what our education department can balance today is to not just look at rote learning as one right answer, right? If you give a student a question, person gets full marks because it's that one right answer we look for. But more often what we need to look for is giving a question that enables students to come back with many possible solutions, right? So that's one. The other part of the analyzing is also, we need to break how studying is done. Today there's an exam, most children are cramming and then it's over. Through AI, simple tools like spaced repetition, which means that you present the concept at the right intervals via educators, the ability to absorb that is much more. Or things like active recall. If you can show flashcards, you can do games, you are more likely to remember what you learned through your curriculum. So that's the first pillar of it. The middle pillar of it is problem solving. As I said in the beginning, we are moving away more and more from what you know, right? Google also knows everything. So what do you do with that? How do you synthesize your learning is going to become more and more important if we want to be the knowledge economy, if we want to problem solve, if we want to have creative solutions for the problems that we have today. How do we do this? We need our roles of the educator to, yes, be the imparter of the knowledge transfer, but also to question the students as to what this means. Why are we learning this? How does it impact? We can do all of this through things like generative AI, through synchronous and asynchronous learning. So one part of it is providing the input and the foundations, but the other part is through generative AI to be able to adapt to the child's pace of learning, right? So AI is able to do that. The other part of problem solving is also when you have examples of questionnaires, simple questionnaires that go into the system, and it can tell you globally or locally across schools that this few concepts always come back as wrong. So teachers can then look at what is it about those concepts that are not being understood and go back and help children understand the foundation of those concepts. And last, where technology can play is simulation, right? Think of it as walking through a warehouse in an AR/VR enabled environment and understanding supply chain management or about warehousing versus a lecture. There have been enough studies that prove that children are less distracted when you're able to put them in a simulated environment and give them real life experiences. Today, through a laptop, you can see so much of all of this happening. These are just some thought starters that we had, but the focus of building AI readiness eventually is on the back of a few things. One is having the right frameworks, the participation between government, between technology, and the right data sets to look at an equitable society, a society that looks at huge amount of progress. And second is to build the future workforce of tomorrow that has the thinking ability, that focuses more on cognitive skills, and therefore our education system being enabled to drive all that. In my last slide, I just want to leave a couple of thoughts on the fact that Intel is invested in building the future. We have been in the sector for many years, and you have already seen so much that we're willing to collaborate with you, whether it's the AI for Youth program, it's the AI readiness programs, it's about the AI innovation network that takes about education as well as all the hardware capabilities that we bring. AI has a huge potential to solve for tomorrow's problems. It has a huge potential of driving transformation in our economy. The good news is that India's knowledge capital, having so many young talented people, we're already ahead. And with the participation and forward-looking vision of the government, along with all of us, can drive this vision. Don't be encumbered by history. Go off and do something wonderful. And I hope that we can talk and collaborate more as we go along. Thank you. I'd like to invite Shweta for any last comments, but thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and speak to you here today.
Thank you. Thank you, Roshni.
Thanks, Roshni. We'll hand it over to Saloni because we are ready for the session now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Roshni. That was really interesting. And in fact, one of the key points that you talked about was that the need of the hour is to have more robust data, which can help us build a more equitable society as an outcome. So thank you for leaving us with that thought. Moving on, we have a very interesting session now. It's a panel discussion. And may I invite Dr. Biswajit Saha, Director, Trainings and Skill Education, CBSE. A large number of audiences here may already know him well. He's been involved with design of curriculum, training manuals, and he's played an extensively key role in several of the CBSE initiatives over the last couple of years. Welcome, Dr. Saha. And to take the discussions a little notch higher, we have with us Ms. Dolly Dhawan, an educator. She's from GD Salwan Public School, and we have one of our AI beneficiaries, student Karthikeya Pandey. He's from DPS Whitefield, Bangalore. So welcome all of you. And now may I request Anshul to please help us weave the discussion with the three key stakeholders of education system: a policymaker, an educator, and a youth. Over to you, Anshul.
So we have been talking about AI and education and its impact on India, what it actually looks like from a practical implementation standpoint. And if we do this right, what kind of results we can see on ground? I think that will be the question which many people will be thinking, right? Given India has so many challenges, so much of a diversity, all kinds of issues, right? How do we really show the success of this? I guess the best way is to get a common understanding built with a teacher voice, a student voice, and educator and policymaker voice. So I'm glad we have a brief panel discussion here with Dr. Saha and Dolly and Karthikeya. But before we go into the discussion, I want to really first bring Karthikeya into the picture. And Karthikeya, if you can switch on your camera, right? Because I think let everybody know what a student can do with AI. Karthikeya, you are here with me in the call?
Yes, sir. He's there, Anshul. He's there.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Hey, Karthikeya, hello. You're in Bangalore right now? Where are you?
Yes, sir. I'm in Bangalore.
Okay. Oh, good to see you, man. Okay. Nice to see you. Okay. Awesome. So can you describe very briefly for this audience, what have you actually built?
Thank you, sir, for providing me with the opportunity to actually come and share what I've done today. So I've developed an AI-based software that records meetings, classes, speeches, etc., comprehends them, and then creates notes and summaries of the recorded audio. It removes redundancies, creates summaries and notes in the text format to help students and employees better understand whatever happened in class, and also at the same time give their full attention to the speaker while attending meetings and classes.
So it's like a note taker, minutes taker for the minutes,
Yes,
right? Okay,
yes.
okay. So what inspired you to do this? When did you learn AI and what inspired you to do this kind of a stuff? What was a problem which you wanted to solve?
I've always been very fascinated with automating things and technology since a very young age. And to be true, I'm I'm slightly lazy while studying sometimes, especially while making those very tedious process, and especially being in the 11th grade, preparing for multiple other competitive exams. It's a very tedious process. And when I was prior to the opportunity to learn AI with Intel, it really came to me that while studying, it's really hard to make notes sometimes, because sometimes when the teacher's saying something, I miss it. I miss it because I was busy making notes and I wasn't able to give my full attention to class. So that's how I was inspired to build something like this. And in general, I have a thing where I like automating things and I like making people's lives easier in general, in any way I can.
Wow. In a class 11, you want to make people's life better with help of automation and technology and really improving their productivity. You truly sound like a Intel's corporate purpose, which is what we want to do, enrich people's life. So thank you. So just tell me, what did you actually learn in AI, right? What technical skills, what social skills you learned, right? And how much time it took? When did you learn it? How did you learn it? Did you learn it in school? Did you
So
learn it outside?
our school provided us with the opportunity to attend the AI for Youth program. So we learned a lot of technical skills and social skills in general. We learned how to build projects, how to train models, and a lot in the technical field. But what really impacted me was the social and the daily life skills that I learned through the process of AI building. I learned that I cannot skip steps and I have to do everything in routine. And things have to be done in a certain way for them to be perfect in the end. I learned better time management, which helped me increase efficiency in general for my academics and everything in my daily life. I really found my interest in law and ethics while with AI, while studying about AI ethics and patenting my projects and etc. And I also learned the value for research while doing school assignments, while doing anything really. That how valuable researching about something really is, how much insight you can get about it. In general, it was a really it was a fun experience, and the fun of learning and research was sparked in me while I was learning AI.
Wow. So you actually learned all the skills which any potential employer now look for in any career for that matter. The research mindset, inquiry-driven mindset, skill sets around AI tech skills and ethics and inclusion, legal issues around this to build a real solution. Awesome, awesome. Just tell me, I mean, I'm sure it's not easy to learn, right? So what were your like most difficult moments or maybe a learning moments? When did you start feeling frustrated and you solved it?
We started this program in last year in June. And since then, it's been a very long journey. I've spent over probably 600 hours in the past year just focusing completely on building a project and completely just doing this, balancing that with school and with preparation for competitive exams. It's been very hard, and just there's so many moments when I want to just give up, but the joy of seeing something materialize in front of me, which was probably 10 years back, 20 years back, not even possible for a computer to do, and even things that are not even humanly possible for general humans to comprehend, machines being able to do that. The joy of that happening is what motivates me all the time to keep building and learning.
Wow. We just hope at some point of time, once you complete your higher education, you really form like a true Indian multinational company, which simplify life of people for note taking. So what's your future plan? What do you want to do? And what do you want to tell your friends who want to learn AI skills?
With my plan with this project was originally not is still originally not to really make it lucrative. What I believe is I've built something that can help a lot of people, and especially during this time when everything is online, I believe that opening it up publicly and providing it to as many people as possible would really be a way that I can contribute to society at the moment. In some way, as an 11th grader, there's not really a lot I can do for society. All I'm doing every day is we're taking from society. So in some way, I will be able to give back to the society we live in and somehow help a lot of people. And my general goal towards the artificial intelligence and learning was to try and bridge the universal language gap. Now, the universal language gap is a very prominent issue today, and a lot of miscommunication from small scale between two people to large scale between two countries. There's a lot of miscommunication sometimes, which can cause a lot of conflicts in the world. And I hope to somehow be able to use the skills that I've learned and the skills I will learn in the future to be able to solve larger issues like those.
Wow. You're already a role model. I mean, you're really, saying all the things which we really want a young innovator from India to do and really build a national strength, national competitiveness. This is so amazing. I want to bring a teacher voice in this journey, right? I mean, we heard what you have done. May I request Dolly ma'am to come on the camera, please? Dolly is from Delhi Salwan Public School, and she's using AI for English. So here is a student who has talked about note taking and really improvising English comprehension, but I also want to hear it from Dolly on what she's doing. It kind of puzzles me. I mean, I learned English, how to speak English, at least when I went for my college. I come from a very rural Marathi speaking background, right? So how you have been using it and what Dolly has been doing to really simplify English using AI is very fascinating topic to me. Dolly ma'am, if you can switch on your camera, please, and say hello to everyone. And then I have some question for you.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, good to see you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for providing me this platform to share my journey of AI, implementing it in my school, integrating it with my subjects.
I struggled in my school. I had English, but I always struggled because, we learn through stories, we learn through role modeling. And I never had Kartike kind of a person in my class, right? So first year of my Delhi University, after I reached over there, was a horror. I couldn't speak English in Delhi, right? After I went from my place. So I want to know as a teacher, right? How AI is helping you, learn yourself differently and then really impart English education in a newer ways, in a different ways for more challenging people like potentially me who come from a non-English speaking background.
Thank you. My journey with AI started with CBSE and Intel training in August 2020. And since then, I think every day has been so enriching for me. So it was an extensive training program we had, and we learned about various AI tools in very reflective sessions where we deliberated upon, which tools we can use for which part of our lesson plans. And we discussed how these tools could prove to be very effective in differentiated learning. And as has been, discussed by Kartike, who's actually a role model, I must say, for the students, we now realize that the future is not far, where one size fits all learning training methods will gradually disappear. And, AI will, of course, relate more to real life situations, making each learner's experience, need-based. So we know now, this AI is going to be very effective in building the language skills, of course. So to help my learners enrich their vocabulary, create a learning environment that's very conducive and enjoyable. So I found AI tools very effective. We know that children want to play lots of games. And if we put them into habit of playing such games to enhance their language, of course, it will give a better result in the language. And that's what happened in my class. So I use the game Semantris, which works with word associations. And what I found was that with learning with AI, it is more of an experiential learning for the students. Instead of teachers using skill and drill method, why not let it be learning by doing for the students? So I use the game Semantris as a pre-reading activity for my lesson. And it has become so popular with my students that now they often challenge each other to score the highest. And in this fun way, they are actually improving upon their language skills, the words that they've learned through this. It's becoming part of their active vocabulary. So there's another tool which I found extremely effective is AI Dungeon. You know, children struggle with writing, and this tool is actually help them taking their imagination into words. So they play this game so enthusiastically. This tool I basically use as a post-reading activity to take them beyond the text. So it makes them think critically, analyze their thought process also. So while they play this game, they create stories, they answer the prompts which this tool gives. They feel as if AI is reading their minds, and they get a sense of accomplishment, you know, when they are able to write a story, of course. And we do encourage them to write stories, and the stories that come out, we do print them in our magazines and newsletters. So I think AI, as Roshni ma'am had said it, of course, AI has a lot of potential, a great future, and we want more students like Karthik to come up with AI.
So, I mean, from a teacher standpoint, right? Because teachers go through a lot of struggle in terms of time, in terms of pressure, resources, so on and so forth. How difficult it was for you, and hence what would be your advice to other teachers to make AI learning a pleasurable experience for yourself? Because once you start enjoying it the way you did it, then obviously you'll find ways to implement it for mainstream education, be it English or maths or science, whatever. So how difficult was it, and how did you overcome that?
So I truly endorse what you said. Of course, nothing comes easy, you know. It was, of course, challenging when we started thinking about how to integrate these tools into our lesson plans. And then we also had to take care of the implications it might have on the students' understanding. So we tried to integrate AI tools with an approach that would have a positive impact on their learning. I believe teachers need to be mentors and guides for the students, and only teachers can guide the students to use these tools very effectively so that, you know, the learning is lifelong. So, you know, we faced a lot of challenges with the gifted students, I must say. We had to think how they should take these AI tools to a higher level. So challenge, of course, lies with the teacher to encourage them to achieve most out of this. Then there are students who get often distracted. So with AI tools, you know, it is really helpful to meaningfully engage them. And that a lot of learning should come out even when they play these AI games. So these are very focused games, and we are able to integrate it in our language. And I feel in language learning, we can make use of most of the AI tools. So when we plan our lessons, we bring in thoughts about the students, and with the satisfaction of giving the best to them, we are able to overcome these challenges quite easily.
Excellent, excellent. So I am processing what you're saying. Learnability of teacher herself, how to learn for yourself is always a good starting point. And once you kind of experience that process and then start seeing the success like Karthikeya, then it builds on it and builds on a community. Now, this is great. And I'm getting a lot of questions on where do we get such material. So let me just take an opportunity of bringing in Dr. Saha, and let's hear it from a system standpoint, right? How this is working. Dr. Saha, if you are there, if you can switch on your camera and say hello, please.
Yes, I am already there.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Good to see you. Yes. There's some lot of questions coming up. So let me take that question first for you, right? I mean, you have done a fantastic job in bringing AI education as vocational subject, AI in education, integrating it across subjects and so on and so forth. For those schools who have not been able to get it so far, how do they take it? So let us answer that question, which is there in the chat. And then I have some more questions for you.
Fine. I think already the team, Karthikeya, Dolly, and of course, other behind the screen who are very much watching us through YouTube and other virtual link. already a kind of positive atmosphere we have created with the support of Intel and other organizations. But at the same time, coming back to answer the direct questions, we are trying to reach to many schools, and more sensitizations program on AI, teachers training component, which Dolly has referred, or student that boot camp or prototype design camp, student awareness. So these are all separate journey, but beyond that, only to sensitize school leaders, we have a specific program. And through that, we are trying to cater and cover more and more regions so that they can come into to offer this kind of course. And moreover, through CBSE website, all the informations are also available from curriculum to content, and various links are available. So it is for general public, our school leaders, all these materials are available. And in addition, of course, due to pandemics, we are not able to conduct more physical programs in different part of the country. But through virtually, I think we have conducted several programs. And on demand also, if specific regions is being isolated, there also we can reach. And in fact, in the northeastern states, already with the support of Intel, we are coming up of creating own lab in the schools so that they can really utilize. And the lab created by Intel or by the state are not really confined to a particular schools. So use case between the cluster or beyond the territory, it is highly possible. And moreover, ATL labs are also very much in place in many of our schools. So there easily one can start the AI program besides our other skill building. So that way it is highly possible, and we are helpful along with the industry partner.
Absolutely. So this is a great information. I hope some of the questions which people were asking that get answered, and CBSE website is a good starting point. So a second question which I wanted to ask you is, now you have like almost 3 years of experience, 2.5 years of experience in this, and many countries in the world are doing it. Many states have now started thinking about this, right? So what would be your big learnings for somebody new who's starting it, right? What would you advise them when they are starting it, and how can you help them?
First of all, unlike Karthik's comments, strong determinations for any policymaker or any state to introduce any new thing. Forget about AI. Any new things, any new technology, considering the big report of OECD and other, as you have highlighted in your very much interactive sessions, you have already covered so many things. So first of all, strong determinations from the side of the school management. And if it is a private schools, the owner and school leader must come to a same trajectory. And similarly for the state board or state, a specific state, if Indian state wants to offer this, they can replicate our model, and customization is highly possible to suit the local requirement. And the model, Intel came to us or IBM came to us with the perspective or global perspective. We have not make or copy paste that same model. So here local customizations are being carried out. We consulted the faculty members of IIT to our school teachers. So the local need we understood, and thereafter how effective it is to offer in this local condition. And even after the pilot testing, we also try to understand the student viewpoint on the subject, whether they are finding it more difficult or somewhere we need to adjust the curriculum. So all those things are being time tested, and we are still open for at any point of time, any way we need to change, we are flexible for that. So similarly, for new state to adopt this kind of curriculum, CBSE's model they can follow, other country also they can follow our model, but suiting the local needs. That is primarily important. Otherwise, sometime copy-paste model will work for the purpose of inaugurations or maybe showcasing to the large stakeholder, yes, we are doing it. But sustainability would be a big question. So as you have critically mentioned that 3 years, so that means our graph is rising, that student accommodations, the school's interest is definitely driving in a very big way. And moreover, that AI integrations, AI as a subject. So I'll go back to your slide only to answer your question. So AI for education or AI in education, here I think that inclusivity somewhere we try to define and more open on that front. And then I think any state, any school in the country or any school in the globe, in a differentiated model they can offer. If somebody is facing to offer the subjects as a full-fledged curriculum, so pandemics has given us an opportunity to offer in a standalone form also. But at school level, we must offer the subject in a differentiated way. So whether the focused students like Kartik or others who are very much thinking how I will clear my JEE, IIT or medical entrance, or Delhi University's political science honors. So at every domain, we are not restricting AI is only with the PCM combinations. It can be taken by anyone. And that flexibility we must offer, then only it will survive, sustain, and whatever you have showcased, both you and Roshni regarding that global perspective, the $1 trillion or multi-dollar economy or data spaces, I think there are a lot of work because till now we are just gearing up. So overall market sensitizations to people sensitizations, through that only a concept will not restrict only to the country's policy. It would be in the people's talk. Then only that realizations will be geared up and ultimately we can aim for better economy and better life.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, very well said. I totally agree with scale and point of your inclusion. Really make it as inclusive as possible across all disciplines, be it political science or anything else. And to your earlier point of of localization, customization, and then you said strong determination and leadership. These are some of the key solid, I would say, principles for any state or any education system to start. And we are really running out of time. I have lots of questions, but I just hope organizers put email IDs of all the three panelists, Dr. Saha, Dolly, and Kartike, so that if audience have more questions, you can reach it out. I hope that's okay. I do not want to violate any privacy rules, so I'm taking your permission. If that is okay, we will share your email IDs so that if people have
please.
Okay,
you can share.
Absolutely. So we are really running out of time, but so this is really great discussion, great insights. I hope audience over here find value in hearing this different perspective from CBSE, from teacher, as well as Kartike as a true role model of what AI can do for himself as a student, as well as a future workforce for the country and for the world. So over to you, Saloni, and thank you for giving us the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Anshul. Thank you so
much.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure listening to this conversation. And if you would see in the chat section, there are a lot of people who are very happy to see that we actually have somebody who can show us what would be the impact of this program. How is it working and how can it make a lot of change in the entire education system? Anshul, yes, there are a lot of questions. A lot of questions were about integration. And so we've tried to share the links where people can go and check out how the CBSE manuals, which are there both on Diksha and on the CBSE website as well. And anybody can go and check them out. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to us. We can help in that as well. So thank you so much. And with that, we come to an end to this session. And may I request Dr. Alok Goyal, MGD, to please come and give the voting. Dr. Goyal.
Yeah. Thank you, Saloni ma'am.
And a very good afternoon to all of you. Respected Shri Abhishek Singh sir, Shri Manoj Ahuja, Shri Vinay Thakur, Shri Anshul Sonak, Ms. Roshni Das, Dr. Vishwajit Saha, Ms. Shweta Khurana, and other esteemed resource persons and panel members, and dear participants and August gathering. I feel privileged to present the concluding remarks and vote of thanks. At the outset, I would like to thank honorable speakers, Shri Abhishek Singh sir and Shri Manoj Ahuja sir for the inspiring keynote speeches. And I express our thanks and gratitude to Shri Anshul Sonak, Dr. Vishwajit Saha, Ms. Roshni Das, Ms. Dolly Dhawan, Master Karthike Pandey, and my colleague, Ms. Reshma Agarwal, who graced the occasion with their presence and addressed the August gathering with very insightful, informative, and thought-provoking presentations and panel discussions. We are extremely grateful to all of you for sparing your valuable time and sharing your rich experience on AI and education in the area of AI, and addressing the current scenario in the wake of AI as a prominent emerging technology, and how AI can be used as an effective tool to ensure greater efficiency and effectiveness in the functioning of education system, its role, implications, and different phases of AI domain. Key drivers of success, skill set, tool set, and most important, mindset, and need to build a resilient ecosystem, and what are its different stakeholders. And this presentation followed by very interesting panel discussion. On behalf of National E-Governance Division, I feel privileged to extend my heartfelt thanks to the entire team of UNDP and Intel for putting up dedicated efforts for making the event successful. As you know that this is the third workshop in the series, and I would like to express sincere gratitude to Ms. Shweta Khurana, Ms. Saloni Singhal, Mr. Vikram, and entire Intel team for their support. I would also like to thank all the team members from NEGD, my colleagues, Ruchi Arora, Parul, Jay Rohila, Barnali ma'am, and our entire ANC team for their tireless effort and continued support. Special thanks and gratitude to Shri Vinay Thakur and our CEO, Shri Abhishek Singh sir, for their continued guidance and support for making this program so enriching and successful. Abhishek sir has to attend another urgent meeting, so he is not on present with us. Last but not the least, special thanks to our audience for showing keen interest, and congratulations to the participants who score highest in the gaming. Ant-Man, Moon, FA. I try to guess their name from the chat. Ant-Man, Anirudh Ghosh from SEMT, FA, Fatima P. Alia, Moon, Munish Sharma. Please pardon me if I am wrong in citing the name. And we are thankful to Mr. Akshay for moderating the quiz in a very exciting and interesting manner. And kindly allow me to take this opportunity to apprise you that Digital India Dialogue is one such platform where contributors and takers create a fruitful association. And Digital India Dialogue integrates the resources and connects the dots and tries to bring in the right mix of experts, content, and audience in the context of capacity building for all the stakeholders. I would like to take this opportunity to convey you all that please keep on visiting NEGD website www.negd.gov.in for the updates for Digital India Dialogues and all other capacity building programs being offered by NEGD that you might be interested in. Thank you all, with the request to the participants to please share your valuable feedback and inputs to the feedback link, and a big congratulations and thanks to all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And as Dr. Goel mentioned, that please do share your feedback with us. There's a feedback form link available on the chat section. Please help share your feedback so that we can come up with more interesting sessions in the coming future. Thank you so much for being a great audience, and we look forward to connect again soon with you all. Thank you.